And blessings, family. Sister Ajali. Woo! This is going to be a big one. This may be 2 hours long. I might have to introduce it as a documentary, even though I'm not going to go to any, extremes to make it more than just me telling you the facts about what the hell is going on this unfortunately radioactivized planet. Now, what's that all got to do with Sydney Sweeney? Absolutely everything. Where, this whole sideshow in a three-ring circus of madness where you have a friggin' we got to make a firm conclusion that Trump is a pedo. You can see his daughter walking all around and being so flattered by them. Is she just Ivana or whatever the heck her name is? She looks fabulous in her latest outfit, and her husband, who is, whoa, is he super creepy. And when you understand the history of how he terrorized the residents of the various properties that he owns, he looks creepy for a reason. And so the deluge of madness is here for serious reasons. This is Daily Mail, which I go to just to do testing of what they want the population, the general population, to think and believe. And they've been having multiple stories about these mutant bunnies that are having tumors, horns growing all over their faces. And then they showcase this one where they were showing other mutated animals, and they're blaming it on a virus. Ooh, I'm going to go into it, so there is no doubt that it has never been the like, ever, ever, ever. But they will not say man-made radiation. But for the minute, back to Sydney. This is an old back and forth where white people control major media, and we have been thoroughly hypnotized by them. So we only take things seriously if they're the first announcers of whatever's going on. When you run across, a person like me who seemingly has very little followship or whatever these words are, I'm just like here to warn you. Right? These people have got a serious poison, deadly on a massive level, where it's mutating the animals and us. It's just they hide all that stuff. I'm just here to let you know it's in your food. It's in your food, okay? It's in that sea moss especially. And so this argument has been nullified 100% as to the good genes of white people. And they will put stuff in a way where it's amusing, like they did, because I went and saw the ad where she was like trying to poke out her booty to, like, she was saying, these jeans make my butt look amazing. And she has a little scoonch of a thing, but it's not about comparing butt sizes. What are we, cows? That's what they want us to act like. All right, I'm gonna let you know why we better not be cows. And so they know that something like that is going to bristle us sisters. And so that I do get the sense that there's been a lot of, like blowback, and a lot of, because they're pumping this up as if it's some sort of controversy. And here, this was on Fox News. They want to say Sydney Sweeney jeans ad signals major cultural turning point. Industry experts say over something as stupid as this. This is a signal of white, no more white guilt. White people are winning. Nuke is back. It's the renaissance of nuclear. Stop. Right? This is superficial pablum. What actually, just to dismiss the pablum, I mean, if you can't stand in front of the sun without some daggone sunblock, and you don't realize that your genealogy is a mutation in and of itself, or I am of a firm conclusion that white people were bred to exist. And because there's no other occurrence where a whole separate offshoot of a particular species just happens, and it's as complicated as humans are, and as quickly as they came into prominence in Europe, and then they're going to be at the top of the gene pool. So when you go to the video and you read the comments, they're like, you know, what they love to do is try, as the book Nat Turner Diaries wants to do, reverse racism, wants to make us seem like we are part of the woke movement, which we're not. We're just, as they used to call us, you know, the most homophobic people out there, and now they've reversed it, where we're going to defend butchering children in order to coddle their lunacy that then the parents infest them with. Hell no, that's not black us. Right? And so they're reversing all of this in a Nat Turner Diary sort of fashion. And so it seems as if we're so sensitive. Black people are so sensitive. That was just a joke. God, you guys can't take a joke. No, you guys don't want to die either. And you can't take the truth that when you kill oceans, you are supposed to admit it and confess and do the best you can to say, whoa, we really messed up here. But they will not do that, because the purpose of nuclear man-made radiation is, number one, to be able to lord it over other nations. Look, we got nukes and we're going to blow you apart, so we are always going to remain at the top of the food chain. And then the other backhand side that they never ever discuss is, we're going to strategically target black people. But in order to do that, by infesting us with the idea, like you even had Essence Magazine promoting CMOS. I have had Essence Magazine delivered. I don't know now as a grown-up, no. But when I was a little girl, those were the magazines, and Ebony and Jet, that were always displayed on my family's coffee table. And they never, ever, ever, ever talk about food, what you should eat, you mean they're gonna, and they promoted CMOS. You're gonna promote CMOS, but you're not gonna talk against the soul food diet that'll help you be nothing but a soul real fast. You're gonna promote that, but you're not gonna talk against anything controversial like fast foods. Evil, even evil, has a behavioral pattern because it wants to accomplish different strategies in order to reach its goal of annihilation. And thereby, that's how you know the nuclear industry is there, not to fuel cities with electricity, because they actually have to use electricity in order to make the suckers run. They don't talk about that. They're heavily, heavily subsidized. That's why a lot of political folks have been saying, do we really need this? It's hard to justify it. But they've managed to dumb the populace down mostly so that we really don't pay any attention whatsoever. And all the people who were writing books and doing experiments against nuclear, they pretty much all died off. And the rest of us are just up on YouTube, and they just hide our content as much as possible. And so the use of electricity, if they don't have electrical coming from coal, and you ain't never heard of a meltdown at a coal plant, okay? Then they don't have any. They use it to, as I said, be the biggest bully on the block. We got 550 nuclear warheads aimed right at you. I don't mean you, but I'm just saying. But the other thing is what Oppenheimer had said when he was asked, what if the nuclear bomb is ineffective? And he said, well, we can still poison 500,000 men if we could target the food of 1,000,000 men. So that's what they're doing with the CMOS, all right? And in order for that to be accomplished, it's been so much that's going on, but I'm still writing my book, and I'm like, look, I'm going to stay dedicated to that because that's my most effective method of reaching you is through entertainment, and they know that. And putting that radiation narrative right on up in there. So there's been so much in the media in terms of just little signals because I'm understanding or seeing the pathology of evil that different news organizations will share where they're at, white people are at the moment. And they had one article where they were letting China know that, there's a black storm coming. It was something to do with China. The Cathay Airlines is going out of business, or they bought more Boeing aircraft, which is very interesting. And Daily Mail then ran an article where they showed the Cathay airline, didn't mention anything about the fact that it was going to be buying Boeing. And then but the headline was, oh, warning to China, there's a black storm coming. And that was published right after I did the thing about Umar Johnson with the Chinese flag, the CCP flag on his headband with the Somalian flag upside down, and it has a 5-pointed star on it. When you have an upside down 5-pointed star, that is Baphometic, that is satanic. And also Umar looked like he had been, roughed up a little bit. I don't wish anybody any harm. I still know this can all be rectified in a peaceful manner, but that's not in reading. Wasn't this book right here I'm reading? This one is so good. About Alice Stewart. I'm going to read some quotes from this. But the other one written by Rosalie Bertell, what is it? No Immediate Danger. And she really just broke down the military aspect. And in that book, she had spoken about their strategy is war. That's their main goal. It was in reported on in another book about Iron Mountain, something of that sort. And she was going over how at this meeting, these different bigwigs were just saying, look, this is the way we stay in charge, is by violence, by war, which they were, using Stephen A. Smith trying to say, and also the other guy, the big dookie-headed looking guy that, he's always, just now he's into religion, but he's still into the religion of whiteism. I can't remember his name. I did a share about him. But anyway, he was saying that violence is our black culture. And that is so, so not true. And so all the things that they're doing right now, it's starting to break at the seams. And they're like, first off, the fact that Trump is in my firm conclusion, a pedo, because I remember what they did with Pizza Gate, where you couldn't say a word about it. All right. And and also Melania Trump was suing people if they said anything whatsoever untowards about her son. So they had a big, resurrection of her son in the media too. Oh, he's bad, the girl. I'm like, who uses language like that? If someone is getting into a brand new relationship, that's because they want to promote him as he's in charge. He's all right. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. That's my firm conclusion because of so much history I'm not going to go over. But Trump also signifying, you take a baby in for a vaccine, they come out the next day and they're not the same person. I'm just saying, he said that in an interview. And so Sydney is just, it's not even a topic as far as I'm concerned because, look, I'm 62 years old. I know at 62, unless Sydney goes out there and gets everything hacked to pieces, she is no competition, even for little, completely, almost unknown me, housewife. All right? So all their money, all their control of the media cannot transform, mutate the truth the way that they need it to do. They need that whiteism to be able to, smoke and mirror all of us into believing that this chick is the epitome of beauty. And no, she's not. And then just putting out little, like what they did with LeBron James and that ad with the gorilla where he was posed holding on to some other white chick. And they were just subtly making fun of him. They did the same thing with Serena Williams when she was pregnant her first time. And they had her like pose exactly like Hottentot Venus. And so they remember they're so hyper controlling. They remember everything. But they still cannot change the fact of melanin. They still cannot change the fact that it is a integral soul to soul communication system, non-pa, and they are just not connected like that. But I don't care, because I don't care what they think about us. I care about what they've done to our planet and fooled us about and want to swear that some virus cause all of that. I could get into the whole virology of it, but I'm not going to. All I'm going to say is no virus has ever caused us, and pretty much viruses don't exist. They're dead particles that are in your body, and if your immune system, your defense system is out of whack, then you cannot defeat just basically dust and, detritus that's hanging out in your blood system, hanging out all the things that your body would try to secure in a globule of fat, of lipids. It no longer has the ability to mitigate and nullify the threat. And they've given that a name called viruses so that then they could do all the madness they did with that whole coronasteria nonsense that they are putting back into rotation right now and accusing China once again of being the origin of it. But let's get on to the next headlines. So I just want to emphasize, I don't know how I have this lined up. I'm just going to go through it. They lie. They lie all the time. This one, social media detectives have uncovered convincing video evidence exposing the Blue Origin's all-female flight as fake. And it was fake. It was utterly fake. And as I was trying to find stuff about the Blue Origin trip, about how fake it was, they had so many debunking articles that I had to hit more content, that little button all the way down at the bottom after you scroll through all the garbage. I had to hit that about 10 times before I got any article that would not just be, adding little insults. Oh, these people are so stupid. That's not a cogent rebuttal, dude, right? And that's all that they have to say. Then to use the word, us conspiracy theorists have a new idea. I had to hit that button 10 times before I started getting to the articles that would explain the details of why people very sanely have concluded that it's all fake. Why would you be going to the, like orbital region of our planet, and you're all fixated on a daggone daisy. What the hell has that got to do? Yeah, you could go up high enough and then you could have something come down, or you could be in a simulator craft. And these things don't happen at the same time. They film this one day and then they film the other, when he's opening up the door. I don't know if that's here. Yeah, where Jeff Bezos, and this was such a joke. There's no burn marks on it whatsoever. The whole thing was just the same thing as the moon landing. Just nonsense, absolute nonsense. But because we're so beguiling, we can't. What? Now, Michael, white people telling us lies? That's no. See, it isn't so. Yes, it's so. It's over the top. Because they need us thinking this was caused by some damn virus. And this right here. See, now this, look, there they are. Asia and Africa. Once again, it's ultimately about them keeping whiteism at the tippy top of everybody's considerations. And so China's going along with the whole thing. As I said, they're utterly going along with it. But states battling outbreak of bone-breaking virus. No, this is just lymphoma, which Alice Stewart goes over quite extensively in terms of its pathology. And this book is riveting. It's so well written, and it was written by Gail Green, so I give her credit for that. But Alice Stewart was one of their great ones. I am not here to just vilify every single white person on the planet. I'm just saying there's a modus operandi going on to their evil. And we have got to examine it because it has put the very planet in jeopardy. That's what all the earthquakes are about. Those cores that melted out of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant are in our earth. I do not see, and that's one thing I'm learning here, reading what Alice managed to do. And she didn't actually get the nuclear above ground test taking stopped. It was other scientists who managed to do that. But she did just go over she did go up against the authorities when she was letting people know that low dose radiation causes catastrophic damage. And thereby, when it comes to the, fighting their lies, I've realized that's just what you gotta do, and you do it in a peaceful manner. It doesn't mean that you dislike anybody, though there's plenty enough people to dislike. But at the same time, I'm like, those cores, how in the world will water be stopping those cores, which are in absolute fissioning pandemonium? They're in the earth. They were clocked at 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no concrete building that would have been stopping those suckers. So here's the next one. California city named world's most relaxing, but its beaches are strewn with sewage from nearby southern border. This is San Diego. And there's so many whales dying in San Diego, and they're out of their migration pattern completely because creatures don't want to starve to death. They're not robots. They have minds, and I'm sure they have greater minds than many of us. It's just that they're not equipped with that gift from the one and only to create what we imagine and to build it with our hands. And so the dead creatures are what have been making everything smell so horrifically. But I have theorized that they're trying to do a fecal matter transplant on the western coast of the United States because there's been so much of a die-off, and there was the impact of these glowing organisms in the waves off of California, and they had no reasonable explanation for any of that. They never have any explanation. These have got to be like the stupidest generation of white scientists ever. But no, it's that modus operandi of evil. And I mean, the more these books I read, the more the pattern is just incontrovertible. You can't actually just read one book. You have to read a multiplicity of them. And then you could just, measure the just redundancy of all of their different strategies. How when one scientist comes up and tells the truth, they completely obliterate them, and if they can, like Karen, but she had blown the whistle on a nuclear power plant that she was working at, and they did a movie covering what happened to her, where she was going to give documents about, it was China syndrome, and she was going to give documents that laid out the data 100%, and not Karen Carpenter, but she was found dead in a car crash, and later on when they did an investigation they realized that there was not a random car crash whatsoever. So they'll use different strategy to keep their ability to wield pure hidden death in any way that they possibly can. And so with this whole sewage thing, I'm like, I wasn't surprised when I read down here that this was a California city, right? San Diego. And what it does is that I'm sure, are hoping that it will restabilize the flora and the fauna, the bioflora that's in the waters, and it's not going to do anything of the sort. It's feces. So they're saying it's coming from the Tijuana River Valley on the south side of the border. That's one of the things that Alice Stewart found in her research, was when you try to pin one agency down that's in its mandates, it says, oh, we're responsible for this and this and this. They have back doors. Well, they'll say, well, no. And we've all gone through this when we're dealing with bureaucracy. No, that's not our fault. That's something that the other guys over there did. And then you go and you ask questions to the other agency, and they say, no, that's not us. And they send you right back to the people who told you that, no, it's not their fault. And that's what the USS Reagan sailors experienced when they tried to sue TEPCO in Japan. And I don't know which one they tried. They tried to sue the United States government for putting them 1 mile in the waters off the shore of Fukushima Daiichi when it exploded. They deliberately gave them orders to go right in that area. And the horrific outcome from being pummeled by radiation whoa. They sued, but they kept getting batted back and forth, and now the whole thing is just like over and done with. That is why I cannot watch almost any white produce media, entertainment, or documentaries, because they'll present themselves like you'll be watching one of these things about some murder or whatever, and then they'll go and interview the detectives and the police officers. They all sound so compassionate. They all sound like they care. They're like, I wouldn't rest until we got this problem solved. What about the radiation problem? This one, they know what they're doing, and I'm not saying every single white person knows what's going on, but there's enough of the modus operandi of predator mimicry within them that they just want that big fancy house. And that's what a lot of them will just sell out for 100%. And so they'll have one agency that may tell a little bit of the truth, and then they got to send in the dragoons to shut it all down. Like I have this copy of just a meme that was sent out by the NARAC. I heard NRC, but nuclear, that's what you need to know. And this would have just like been the end of the entire controversy right at the beginning, but this is something that nobody's ever heard about. And even to get it, they had to use a Freedom of Information Act edict in order to acquire. This means that where they sent people to Fukushima and observed 100% of the total spent fuel was released to the atmosphere from Unit 4. All 96-hour dose projections, Alaska, Hawaii, West Coast, are well below, this is just an excuse, 1 REM total effective dose protective action guide based on predicted cesium-137 deposition, right? Except for Alaska, all thyroid dose, at the EPA, they base all of their data for how safe radiation is off of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bomb drops. And all the real data was utterly suppressed. And here's where I'm going to add. I'm doing just a direct GoFundMe. I'm not doing it through the website itself. But please donate or go to 25000yearcycle.org and purchase our products specifically so I can get this book, because I'm going to read this book. It ain't no hoarding of nuclear books for me. I read them suckers because nobody else in the Black community on the entire planet is doing what I do, and it must be done because it's in our food, okay? And so go on over there. You could get my soap. You could get my silk hair cream. You could get my books. And you'll find out that I'm not kidding. I don't get my products made in another country and then I ship them to you secondhand. They're made by me. They're made with love. So help me to get this book because it has an ebook reader, but I don't want something that they could just pull the plug on. There's only a hardcover version, and that the lowest price one I saw was $111. The most expensive one is $140 something. So I'm just doing a GoFundMe. So $1 is going to help if 111 people donate $1 to either the Cash App or to my Patreon, then because I'm going to go through so I can get the facts, because this thing is hidden. Beloved brother Yapo, during a live I did where I was discussing a little bit about this book, had sent me a link to a free internet library where they have the book, but it's not available. So I'm like, whoa, they really don't want people to know that they use this fake, falsified data from those bomb droppings as the measure, and they only are going by external radiation. They're not going by internal radiation. They're using that as a measure for everything they say. So remember, they lie. So I'm going to go back to more of the different memes and photos that I've collected because it's just damning. It's a damning collection, right? But this is a clueless demon girl right here. Her name is Isabel Bomecki, and I highly doubt that she is kissing a cask of nuclear waste. And her caption is, I kissed a cask of nuclear waste and I liked it. In the New York Times, I learned from Kevin Blanche, and I thank him for that they're saying in an article, in a headline, they need beautiful influencers. The nuclear industry needs beautiful influencers. Despite the fact that people like Alice Stewart and Rosalie Bertell, they're all dead, right? Ernest Sternclass, he dead, and they made it tough for nuclear to gain a foothold. It's the nuclear power plants are there. It's just that more and more of them do get shut down, and shut down is not the same thing as closing them altogether. The thing is not to have them open up anymore, and they have to keep spinning it with the whole SMR nonsense. But and here they have the beautiful influencer, if that's, your cup of tea, but Isabel Bomecki, and this chick she's just a piece of work right here, where first off, I'm looking at the one eye thing, of course, but building a rad future with nuclear electricity. She even wrote a book, and my photo kissing a nuclear waste cast went viral. And people had opinions about it. There was outrage, with many claiming it was dangerous and that I was hurting my future children. She was not kissing a nuclear cask of waste material, not at all. Dana Durnford has shown plenty of pictures and talked about how destroyed Fukushima was, and he has other photos that are more like detailed and exacting. It takes a lot of time and work to put all this stuff together, so there's only so much that I can do. But this is one of the nuclear power plant buildings at Fukushima. This right here, all this stuff is just covering over it so that you don't see what's behind it, but you could get a glimpse behind that. It looks like it's Unit 4, but they were showcasing reporters in a completely resurrected, renovated, decorated almost Fukushima. It was supposed to be the Fukushima Daiichi unit number 4, the one with 100% of the fuel. It was exploded out of the building. And they were saying, oh, no, it's still there. It's sort of crushed like a pack of cigarettes. If you sit on it, it'll be crushed. And they're trying to remove the rods right now. And it was all lies. It was all straight up lies. And so this I got from Mochizuki, who he left Japan immediately. He knew enough about radiation. And he's like, I'm out of here. But he got this information. I went to verify it. He got it from the TEPCO website. Radioactive material released from Fukushima plant doubled up since last year. This stuff is expanding in its radioactivity exponentially every single year. This is an article from 2019. 2019. So there's no goddamn way you're going to be kissing on some friggin' radioactive waste container and you're okay. This is a lie. It's just all a lie. And she said something joking is here. I don't know where it was or whatever. She's like, wait until I go swimming in a spent fuel pool. Trust and believe it will be as fake and more fake than them posting reporters. I'm in the new repaired Fukushima Daiichi building. No, they were someplace altogether different. And so here, map reveals where Americans are at highest risk of number one killer and the shocking reasons why Americans in about 36 counties are being exposed to dangerous air pollution. I've gone over the orange skies. It's just, even with that, there's more proof. But when I think about what I do, I recognize it is really hard to wake people up from a well-embedded, from childhood, delusion. It's cognitive dissonance is what they call it. If they're certain that righteousness and authority is on the side of the liars. And so the things that I say, like about the orange skies, where there's no place else where such skies have been seen from a burning fire that was hundreds of miles away, unless it was in the direct path of the radiation. And immediately, I've never seen a report about a fire where they warn people, oh, well, like, it's dangerous to go outside. Stay inside. That's because it was friggin' plutonium floating around, being released from all the trees, the burning trees that had sucked it up. That's why when the fires were going, everything was so hot. You saw flames going inside the tree trunks themselves because radiation's hot. That's what made those bombs so explosive. Oh my goodness, this is going to be such a share. But when I look at all the places where they're like saying a density of these, outcomes, a high risk of lung cancer, I imagine, is Idaho, California, Utah, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Right? I would say Washington and Oregon would be up in there too. But these are all the places that got pummeled by the radioactive plume that's got shot over. But they never tell you directly what it was in that air that's different from everything else. They'll just make up these story, Frankenstein rabbit, when, oh my goodness, when I've shown so many just photos of the deer that are also mutated beyond description. And they even put out nationwide reports, warnings to the hunters, do not hunt the deer. And now the same thing is happening to the bunnies, and that's a cow up over there, and this is a giraffe over here. And this is all a virus that just like skips, like hops around from species to species. No, that's why they use a virus as their warning, because they're in control of the definition of something that doesn't exist. It's dead little particles of toxins and all the rest. And we've been living with these types of things for a long, long time. But when Dr. Ernest Sternglass did his research, he found all the ailments that radiation causes within the district of nuclear power plants, which are nothing but slow release nuclear bombs. And I remember Daily Mail used to show, trying to make it seem like it was so cute. They used to show us, look, it's a cute little kitten with 2 heads, right? And make a joke, make light out of it, because they didn't want us to think that this is intolerable when it is. So, beautiful sister Drea Lay, send me this message, and I have to share it. Please know that despite YouTube's attempts to shadow ban your channel and those like yours, you are seen, heard, loved, and appreciated. That's a beautiful thing to know, Queen. I say this because you are the only beautifully, I'm not trying to compliment myself, I'm just reading what she wrote because it's for a reason, all right? Intelligent and caring, melanated queen that constantly speaks on these types of topics specifically. A video popped up in my feed from Democracy Now!, but the topic was about they've destroyed the world or something like that. And they were talking about forever chemicals that America created via the Manhattan Project. This made me think of many of your videos that have discuss this in particular. It hit me again how I need to grab the rest of your books. That sounds like a real good idea, Queen. Yes, indeed. Can you imagine the time that we're in? I mean, could you have imagined that you yourself, and all the rest of it, you could read the rest of it if you want. I want to go to the video that she was talking about from Democracy Now!, which was, I'm going to go over that one too, because it's just so much. Here it is. It's got to be it, right? From Democracy Now! This was such a joke. They poison the world, the corporate cover up and fight back against PFAS forever chemicals. In my firm conclusion, Amy Goodman is a complete and utter agent. Okay, I watched her rise from, nobody ever heard of her. All of a sudden she pops up at a Democratic convention and she's in the mix of it. And then she's got these fancy studio facilities. And I'm like, no, that's somebody who was chosen. And she also, I noticed these people will also go to either China or Japan. And that's to get further instruction in my conclusion. And so Amy went to Japan, and I was like, and it was during the Tokyo Olympic Games, which there was so much crap going on through there that I just outlined that, because the athletes didn't want to eat the food. They were real smart, right? But here she is, because there's a lot of people talking about what I'm sharing and what others are sharing. Not very many, because they hunt most platforms out of existence or nullify them. And a lot of people will just stop. They'll give up, right? I ain't giving up, because know what's going on, and it's too huge to just walk away from because it involves our entire planet and beautiful black you. And so I went and listened to this thing for as much as I can because I cannot stand liars. And here she's saying the U.S. government top secret Manhattan Project, this is supposed to be their PFAs, which they'll then describe as something else. But in Behind the Fog, the author did the research where she got the United States documents that said they will choose obscure references in order not to alert the media to the radioactive reality of what they're actually doing. And so PFAs just strikes me 100% as that. So when Sister Drea Lay said that they were equating it with the Manhattan Project, I was like, oh my God. She reveals how the U.S. government's top secret Manhattan Project that developed the atomic bomb that was dropped 80 years ago this week on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was also responsible for the development of PAS. I'm sure they meant PFAs. A lot to go there, and that's all they said right there. Okay, that's like reminds me of Trump's interview on, Josh Logan or whatever, one of them dudes. I don't care about them. But, the Rogan, that's it, Rogan program, where it was like a dance they did. It was a scripted dance. And I'm sorry, I did not hear Trump bring up radiation. I did hear him say that all this stuff is really, really dangerous. It's really dangerous. The biggest thing is the, global warming and, all these other hints. But I ain't hear him mention it first himself. Rogan mentioned it first, okay? I'm just saying, I'd have to listen to it again. But at the same time, it reminds me of that because they have this way of avoiding lawsuits, because that's what this whole thing is about. How in a New Jersey town, they're suing the government over PFAs, and they won their lawsuit. I do believe that was the outcome of it. They will put out a little bit of truth because they want plausible deniability at the end of it. And they can then, when they go into these courtrooms, sort of, how you've seen these congressional hearings where they're like, I have no recollection of ever writing such a document where I confess that low-level radiation will inevitably kill everything and everybody. I have no recollection of that whatsoever. Is that your handwriting? I have no recollection of that. Okay? So I'm just saying in terms of the way that these people lie and the way that they get everybody, they got pedo president off the headlines by having some black man that they probably tortured to an inch of his life so that he would go out and start shooting people, and then Daily Mail puts it up on the top of their headlines. Because they're all controlled. That high up, you ain't up there unless you're controlled. And they need to get pedo president off the headline because they don't want them to take down Trump. Not quite yet. And they want white people to think that we're the ones who are doing this to them, and nothing of the sort is the case. Right? That's why for me, I'm like 100%. I am non-violent. I believe in self-defense. That's what I'm doing with this. That's what I'm doing with all my books. That, yes, you should go and buy all of them. If like 5 people went and bought all my books, I would definitely be getting that one book about Japan right away, because you have funded my ability to do in-depth research that nobody, I don't care what race you are, nobody out here is doing all of this, like just triangulating of the facts. That's already been proven, already been written. And I want to add to talking about the orange fires. I've already said that there's a native people. I don't know if it's the Inuit people. There's so many different tribal names that they have, and I honor that. I don't want to get that wrong. But at the same time, they preface it, they put it in terms of white people told not to go into native lands Otherwise, they're going to get fines. Well, now they also just have all of Nova Scotia bans people from walking in its stunning woods, or they'll be fined up to $25,000. No, that's because they don't want to be sued for millions of dollars if they don't get those people from walking in there. And not as if white people ain't gonna walk up in there, but I'm just saying it's gonna be mutant white folks all over the daggone place. And if they're not going to stop being paranoid about black us and just sticking us with all the wokery madness, right? Then I'm not going to be feeling too mournful. I don't like death. I am not wishing it on them because it could be also black people going up in there. But even if it's only white people, I wish they could survive too, because I believe in actual diversity, global diversity. Candace Owens doesn't, right? They're like promoting that chick when she is basically more woke and liberal than any of them. Where she's like, no, just me, black me, please marry me, knock up me, so I can have a little biracial baby that'll then want to be around you constantly. It's like predator mimicry. Makes no damn sense. It's not superiority. And right here, ominous warning, but I'm talking about the whales. For humanity's blue whales go mysteriously silent. Get the BS out of here. No, they're not silent, they're dead. For every 10 beach whales you see, there's 1,000 times more in the waters that are dead. Right? That's what I'm saying. The waters, the Pacific Ocean, and they have a whole thing where they're like, oh, the Pacific Ocean, it doesn't have enough, food anymore. Somewhere, I got it up here somewhere. Here, the Pacific Ocean shift. Sick. Could send U.S. food prices soaring for decades. Scarcity is what increases the prices. And so all these boats, Kevin Blanch is going over it, that are going out looking for salmon, they ain't finding nothing. Whole friggin' fleets pulling up 16 salmon, and that's it. And even the salmon fisheries, their produce is dying. So I'm not going to play this, but I've seen it circulated around about this physicist, Galen Windsor, who was eating radioactive uranium, right? And he lived to be, I don't know, like 70 or 80 or something like that. And he wanted to prove it's harmless. Here's the thing. Here's the ticket, all right? Radioactive uranium, what makes it radioactive is the radon gas that it emits, but it is put together in a configuration that nullifies the most radioactive aspects of it. When they are processing uranium ore, they're removing, I think is uranium-235, which basically silences, because there's so much uranium-235 in the uranium ore, that then keeps the fissioning process from even getting started. Enrico Fermi, who's hypothesized the possibility of a fissioning process, knew we got to remove the uranium-235, otherwise it ain't gonna happen. So when he's eating this stuff, he ain't getting the worst of it. He's not getting an overload of radon gas, which is what, in my firm conclusion, was taking out so many Native American miners who came down with lung cancer, worse than even their relatives who smoked. And these were the miners who didn't smoke. He's not smoking either. Okay? He's just eating it, and he probably went right behind stage and took himself some sort of diuretic, right? Some Pepto-Bismol or some whatever the heck you take, milk of magnesia, and got that sucker out of there real fast. And thereby, it would cause no damage whatsoever. So that's why it's like, oh, you pour it out on your hand, and then you just swallow it, and it's just fine. They lie. Because here's this book. They've been throwing this theory out that The Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs were actually napalm bombs. They were fake. And this book was just published like a couple weeks ago. This is a new one. As I said, they're in panic free fall. And this was just written up as quickly as they could. Might have been in direct response to my books. I'm just saying, it's possible. Sometimes we undervalue the power of our voice. And I definitely, I agree with you, Sister Drea, that I have undervalued the power of my voice, right? But they're going to be pushing this one, same as they pushed, what was it? The earth is flat and planet Nibiru. I'm like, no, let's just deal with what's going on this planet right here, right now. So when you go and you look up napalm explosions, compared to all the videos, there's a channel called Nuclear Vault that I'm subscribed to. And they showcase all the different outcomes from exploding a nuclear bomb. The similarities, other than their explosions, that's it. There's nothing else in common that they have whatsoever. And as I was saying, the heat of radiation is what makes atomic bombs and nuclear bombs so devastating. The radiation, just like with the trees that were burning on the inside on the West Coast and turning the sky orange because there was so much cesium in there and it caused cesium skies. There's no comparison, but they know we are beguiled by them. They know everybody. They've talked everyone into being so hysterically, just like suspicious. And that's actually really good. You need to be suspicious of liars. But they made everybody suspicious of even the facts, right? So that when you hear the facts, you don't even know if those are real anymore. But the trajectory of the aberration of Fukushima, it never stops. So that in 2018, you have articles in Fortune magazine, the flu is killing up to 4,000 Americans a week. And then the next year, white man cures the flu and we are all on lockdown, right? And yet they pretty much figure they're going to get away with it this next go round. Oh, there's something coming from China and Africa. Okay? No, it's not. It's the same old whiteism lies. And you can't get away from this. They've tried also with Dr. Joseph Mangano to explain away his very researched just proof that an unexpected mortality increase in U.S. follows arrival of radioactive plume from Fukushima. Is there a correlation? Right? That's the same thing that Dr. Sternglass covered. When you look at the increase in all things radiation causes, it's always surrounding a nuclear event or a nuclear power plant. Right? That's like a duh, but we're so beguiled and hypnotized by these people that if they don't say something, it just can't be true. I found that out by just, reading different books and trying to share with people. And all they did was just chew the cover off. But I could see it and they just kind of glaze over. Whoa, I recorded this whole thing and I didn't know I had it on pause. But I am so glad that I have this article, and this is because of Dana Durnford, right? Where he just shares some headlines, and I get as many as I can, but I've got a busy life, so there's only so much that I can do in the middle of writing my next novel. And so it's already a novel. I just gotta put the finishing touches on it. So Vancouver rainfall had 200 million atoms per liter of iodine-29 after Fukushima. Half-life equals 15.7 million years. In that Democracy Now! Interview, that woman who wrote that lying book, where she was saying as PFAs, And PFAs, they're inert. They're inert. Plastic ain't going to do nothing to you, and that's what they are kind of giving people the impression that that's where this stuff is coming from. I'm not saying it's not going to interfere with a seamlessly operating immune system. Yes, it will, without a doubt, but it's not going to be in there shooting off little decaying electrons and neutrons. I forget which part of the atom just decays out, but it's not going to be shooting them out 1,440 particles every single day, right? Alice Stewart went over the x-rays, which are waves that go straight through your body, but I was reading through here where she said when she found out, she just thought it was x-rays. When she found out that, no, there's particles that then shoot out the x-rays, she could have been gobsmacked across the head because she had no idea that this stuff would then get into the food. That's how she also learned about the difference between internal and external dosage. And that's where I got the name of the book, how they suppressed the information right in Japan directly after dropping the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs, all right? So for this amount of radiation to be per liter, and for that chick on that Democracy Now! To then, I listened through to certain portions of her interview where she was saying, oh, this stuff will last for millions of years. She was talking about the radiation. For that many atoms to be in 1 liter of rainfall, that's crazy destructive, crazy destructive. And this is not just in Fukushima. This is in Vancouver. So what's going on in Fukushima? Stuff like this, where that's a rice paddy right there. And right next to that farmer, who you can't have any protective gear against this sort of deluge, are the decontamination bags, which are 1 ton each, filled with all the stuff they just tried to scrub up from the surrounding environs. There are miles upon miles upon miles upon miles upon miles of these bags all over Fukushima, and some bunches of them they tried to burn. You cannot burn radiation, as I said. That's what those orange skies were all about, right? So is this decontamination effective? And that rice would be highly contaminated, because I showed a video where they were, going all around with a Geiger counter. You can't use a Geiger counter on PFAs, okay? Unless it's the radiation specifically. But these things were radioactive from like 1 mile away from the bags. When in the Mainichi News website, little result from decontamination efforts at nearly 12,900 sites near Fukushima plant. They didn't even test all the other places that these decontamination bags went. They didn't test the food, which is being shipped off for free to African and Caribbean nations, and their deaths from cancers are soaring. They're just soaring. They want to get into Africa. They want to get into Haiti to get all that gold and oil that's in that incredibly rich. That's why food there. All you have to do is just drop a seed. You don't have to do anything else pretty much, and it will just grow into an entire forest, right? They want those resources. They want Africa, because Africa is rooted all the way down to the core of the planet, unlike every other continent which broke off from Africa as a mass, right? So they're shipping that rice on over there, and there's because you can't solve radiation contamination like this. Maybe there's some way, but surely not with these friggin' genociders are we going to be able to trust that they're going to find a way, right? They're busy releasing the thousands of tons. Is more than that. They're just like going to stop, because they have to send the salt water in to keep those just destroyed reactors from glowing because they'll be so radioactively hot. And the glowing is really not that big of a factor in radiation. You're not going to see it, and it's going to announce itself with a nice handy dandy glow. Right? With the radium paint dialers, yeah, that was one specific isotope of radiation. Radium. It's one of the first things you get out of uranium ore. Right? But yeah, they just dumped it, and that is never ever even spoken about. It just dropped from the headlines. Said we got Sydney Sweeney and her good genes. Like, really? The truth is omnipotent, and it ain't on your side, whiteism. Oh, so glad I found this one. And this is in Japan. This was in Japan today. Yoshinoya to grow rice and vegetables in Fukushima, Japan today. Fukushima rice has probably already been mixed in with other rice from different prefectures. It seems more than one or two unscrupulous dealers have been picking up the rice dirt cheap from the affected area, you can pick it up for free, and trucking it to other parts of the country, of the world, okay? And they probably just send the Fukushima rice out just 100%, because the FDA said there'll be no more alerts for any produce coming from Fukushima. What they do by mixing it in with other rice is they lower the radioactive signature, so that when you're using their Geiger counters, which only work on radiation, they don't work on plastics, you don't get a full reading, and it will then fly under the radar of their standards, their allowable dose of radiation for just the general population. And as Alice Stewart found out, there is no threshold for harm. I thought I was going to read this, but I'm not, because it's just make it too long, and it's probably going to be like an hour and a half. I thank you if you watched the entire video. I think I said enough, because there's just so many aspects to all of this, and I'm going to, as soon as I finish this, be pondering, oh man, I should have said that, because this is fast. It's fast. Assist me in making sure that if I'm going to be doing this, I have the most comprehensive data possible. Go to 25000yearcycle.org and purchase our products. Go to the Ajali Shabazz link up top and purchase our products. And that reminds me, I have to thank you, Sister J, for your purchase of Nzinga soap. I know you got it already like about a week ago, and that's a wonderful thing, but I was just, I couldn't come up here and thank you straight away, but I promised myself I was not going to forget to thank you. And so that's simple. That's all you have to do, and it makes every single difference in the world. But specifically, I want that book about Japan suppressed, as far as them getting the truthful data about just how many people were succumbed by the radioactive contamination of one bomb. And by now, Fukushima has been, I would say, 100,000 of Hiroshimas and Nagasaki's, because they keep exponentially increasing, and they're sending out untapped, unstopped levels of radioactive fallout everywhere. I think I've proven that point 100%. We could just like, whatever, Sydney. You ain't got nothing on looking at the truth of what your whiteism people do. All right? All right. I love you. Straight black pride is our map to forever. Don't you forget that. Peace and blessings, then.